Hey everyone, welcome to another video. I thought what I'd do today is give you a little bit of an update on Project Apollo while also talking here and there about this tile set that I created for a later level in the game. I haven't really been able to spend a lot of time producing videos or giving tutorials from the stream because I haven't been doing any. So this is sort of the best thing I can give you in the short term while I'm getting the game ready for release. So, like I said, this is kind of like a new tile set. I'm taking notes from the work that I did on the original tile set, that castle, and I'm going for something more sandstone, more kind of ancient here. So similar in proportions and theme. It's the same game, just going for something a little bit different. So obviously the first thing I'm starting with here is lighting and the basics. I started with that black square in the middle because I liked what that sort of baseline that we landed on with the original tile set. And here I'm just sort of working the colors up, feeling out, where will the darkest colors be, where will the brightest colors be, that kind of thing. As far as the project goes, it's coming along really well. It's definitely over scope in terms of the amount of time that I expected I'd be spending on it. But that seems to be what happens with me. I can't really change that. I'm just trying to focus on making sure that what comes out is a good product and is fun to play. So what you can see here is I'm basically just copying and pasting the elements that I've already done and filling out the rest of the template. This template is not fully complete, but it's pretty close to being an account of every tile you would need. And there are a couple of edge cases that I might go and add some extra stuff for later, but it's not a big deal. So these four here, these really dark ones, basically those are the inner corner blocks. So they're mostly black. They just have light that would be sort of like piercing the bottom corner of a different tile, and they're sort of just showing that light that's leaking through. In the recording here, I have the camera kind of like locked onto Aseprite. So I can't really show you like the work in progress tile set that I'm referring to when I look back at Unity, because it's not recording Unity, unfortunately. Suffice it to say, when I was looking at it, I noticed I was just not really happy with the distribution of color, so I worked back that dustier, darker color just into the corners there. And here I'm sort of making a decision that I want some sort of brick. I want something similar to those pyramid big sandstone blocks that they used, but I wanted to spice it up a little bit. I also wanted to stay a little further away from that original sort of castle tile set that we did, so I didn't want to use the same size tiles. I wanted to go for something bigger and more brutal because it's more ancient. Things tended to be less fine, right? Here I'm doing a bit of lighting. I really like this technique of on the pixel just underneath, like a crack underneath a dark part, you add light, and that makes it look a bit more like it's top lit and sort of gives you that impression of like specular light, which I like to do. So the game itself, where are we at? What have I been doing in the last few weeks? Basically, I have been spending a lot of time getting the last few features of the core sort of feature set of the game in. That includes the inventory, the merchant, the ability to watch ads, that kind of thing, as well as like the UX and UI around introducing certain mechanics to the player and introducing items to the player. Basically just system features that you would expect to be in the game, no matter what. I've also been very, very recently looking into music, and I have a composer in mind who I've been sort of meaning to work with for quite some time, on Insignia actually, and this is turning out to be a project where I might be able to enlist them to actually help me out with a custom track for this game. That said, I'm sort of starting, as this is a mobile game, really low-fi, low budget. So the first release is going to be minimum viable product, and it's going to have very minimal music, if any, and I may use some temp tracks from that composer's library, which they very gracefully offered to give me access to. I also have a name for the project and a logo. Currently, the operating title is Arrowbound. We went through a few different names. One was Robin Hop, sort of like Robin Hood, but he hops. And then we were thinking of things like Arrow Rider, Skyward something, Towerbound was one option. And then Arrowbound seemed to be a really fitting name because Apollo is bound to his arrow and he bounds with the arrow. So it's kind of like a double pun there, and also very literal. So what I'm doing here is, you can see I'm sort of trying to add these seams to make it look like there are, multiple bricks, and I'm deciding that the diagonal ones are coming along really well, and I'm just sort of adding some lighting, some softer lighting in there. Pretty soon I make the decision, I believe, to basically drop the horizontal and vertical splits because it's just too many seams in the tile set. One of the things with this kind of work is you do want to have a lot of contrast to make the walls and the surfaces that you can touch very distinct. You want the player to know they can touch the walls, but you don't want the rest of the design to be so busy that it takes focus away from the rest of the game. So here, there you go, I'm making the decision to just work it back, especially the tiles that repeat. If you don't have alternate versions of those tiles to mix things up, like randomize middle tiles, you may as well have them be as smooth and unfeatured as possible so that they tile nice and inconspicuously. So the corners is where I tend to put a lot of detail, and then given that this is a really simple tile set, because the game itself is supposed to be quite minimal, I've decided not to have too many features on those, the T intersection tiles. So the north tile, south tile, east and west of this middle block here, this grid of 3x3 that I'm working on right now. So you can see here, I've decided to take the corners and give them some cracks and make them all nice and interesting. So all the tiles that are on the end, just trying to reinforce that feeling of it being a ruin. And much like the autumn tile set that we did with the castle previously, I wanted to go ahead and assume that I'm going to have some sort of game object that populates these tiles on the basically on the surfaces that the player can stick to sort of reinforce that idea that yes, you can land on this part here. So pretty soon here in a second, I decided to think about what that would be. And naturally, because this is a desert tile set, I wanted to go for something more like sand instead of leaves. So this is me just setting up this idea that I'll explore a little bit later about, how would I sort of have some sort of sand game object that I can animate and have sitting on top of the tiles here. Maybe the sand sort of drips or like pours out with the wind or something like that. Maybe tiny little dunes form on top of the bricks. I think this is a really kind of interesting idea, and kind of excited to see how that turns out. Although because this is just the first pass, can't go too far into detail. This is really a really quick, obviously not being played in real time here, but this 10 minutes that we've just watched is about 40 minutes of work IRL. So I think it's pretty good for a first shot. I'll definitely be coming back to it and going over it with a fine-tooth comb and giving it some more interesting details if I can. But in the meantime, that's where we're at. So to recap, the game is coming along really well. It's very close to release and will be free to play on Google Play within the next week or so. If you are a patron or a subscriber on Twitch, you can find a download link to the alpha on Discord. So this is the final result of the first pass. I think it came along really well, and the only thing I'd really say needs some love is the transition from that second darkest color to the black. I think it just looks a little bit unfeatured at the moment, but yeah, that's it. Thanks guys, see you in the next one. Hey pal, thanks for watching, and thanks most especially to the patrons and Twitch subs who support this channel and my game dev project Insignia. To find out more, click the links in the description below. And if you like this video, tell YouTube by clicking the like button, and then YouTube will tell me, and then I'll make more videos. That's nice.